It's 2024 and the sport of Muay Thai is doing better than ever. This is the state of the sport in 2024. Last year we had a big explosion with the WBC. They had games in Mexico, in Hue Hin, and in Italy. They have upcoming games at Lumpini Stadium here in Bangkok. I would say one of the big surges in the sport was the WBC. They've also recently had an informal tie into one championship, so we'll see how that develops. They have also expanded their organization in terms of number of belts given. There's a lot of commotion over in Australia with shows like 1774 and Rebellion giving out WBC belts. It's positive. In America, there's the growth of the WBC Muay Thai USA under Patrick Rivera. I think this year we'll see more growth with WBC. Joe, what do you think are some other big developments?
Well, 2023 was a fairly action-packed year. I mean, our last video on what do we need to know about Muay Thai was pretty much a clear crystal ball into what happened. But next year, I think we're really going to see the potential for Muay Thai going global. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things I'm interested in is the North American market. You were just talking about the WBC. What I'm interested in is the development shows for the bigger shows like One Championship and RWS. At the moment, RWS has put a lot of investment into their Road to Rajadamnern series. So they've been going to places like Japan and Switzerland, I think, if I'm not wrong, and doing a development series, and the winners from those tournaments go to RWS. And not only that, we both commentate on Fairtex Fight, and we had the second season of Road to One, which was very successful. And that is a development series to take the winners through a tournament-style championship, and they get a contract with One. Now, this is actually happening in North America under Kieran Kettle's program, the Road to One series. He's taking a bunch of North Americans, putting them through a similar pathway, and they get contracts with One Championship. So it's fantastic to see now that the two big stadiums here in Thailand are starting to expand and branch out globally. That's why I think Muay Thai is going to go global in 2024.
I think another good thing to mention is the recent joining of a few different promotions. I believe it's the Muay Thai League in the Gold Coast of Australia, Kieran Kettle with Muay Thai World Cup, Warriors Cup, and then over in England, Liam Harrison's Hitman series have joined together to create a league. So I think we'll be seeing more of those sorts of collaborations as we move forward into 2024. I would say one of the massive developments out here in Thailand and the world was One Lumpini. We talked about it last year being a big deal, and it absolutely was. It's every Friday night. And some athletes have made some life-changing money, like Saxon, who has gone undefeated 8 times, winning multiple bonuses, so $10,000 bonuses, 350,000 baht. That is a shitload of sticky rice. He's built a house for himself. He's done a lot. It's really, really increased the exposure for some of the athletes. Of course, I would say there's like good and bad to it, because some of the fighters aren't fighting as frequently, and because of the high pay, there is, more competition to get on the show. So you might get your one shot. If you make it, you make it. If you don't, you sort of flop.
The other thing to mention with that is not only the One Friday cards, but there's been a lot of One Championship Prime cards where they have the pay-per-view here in Thailand. So that's been another fantastic thing to see, is those big cards where you actually have to pay to watch them being shown at Lumpini on a Saturday. So that's been another amazing development, which sort of happened in the later part of the year.
I think the big facet or big factor for one championship is it's looking to make the athletes into stars and into bigger than life personalities. I've personally seen this a couple times this year with Stamp Fairtex going to and managing her fight in Colorado, where everyone knew her name as she was walking out. It was like, Stamp, 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 Stamp. This was in Colorado, which is not necessarily a fight capital, but she had a massive fan base. Then, of course, taking her on tour, a seminar tour in the States, I believe the mass amount of money and attention is coming from America. This year, we doubled our amount of net from last year for the tour. And we did about the same amount of seminars and same length of time.
And that's what I mentioned before about breaking into the North American market. If we want to see Muay Thai go really global, I think this is the important time where promoters and promotions need to break in and focus on the North American market, because, you know, we all know in America that, like Australia, sport is like a religion, and you know, that's where a lot of the investment comes from.
Yeah, coming from North America and having now more international experience going to Australia and Italy and other areas this year, I definitely think that the money is going to come from North America. A lot of investment opportunities are coming from Saudi Arabia, but I feel like Saudi Arabia has the money, but America has both the money and the attention.
One of the other big developments that we will probably see in the next year in 2024 is more streaming services jump on board with promotions. So this year we saw, obviously, Prime being a big factor in pay-per-view for One Championship, but RWS scored a deal with DAZN and now showing in 200 plus countries around the world. So I think that is going to be a huge factor to the growth overseas, is streaming companies and pay-per-view companies being involved in our sport.
And that's why when you have an athlete that is both an influencer and a fighter, they're going to be able to develop their careers a lot faster, because the promotions now have access to live streaming services. So your fan base is not just national, is international now. I do think that we're going to see a couple potential problems coming up this year. One of them will be contracts. So traditionally, athletes in Muay Thai have not been signing contracts. I think that is going to become an issue as more athletes are signing contracts and starting to learn about the good and bad of them.
Yeah, 100%. There are some certain loopholes in different contracts, and some contracts are predatory towards certain fighters. Often this works not only here but in other countries as well, that it works in the promoter's interest and not often the fighter's interest. So I think you're 100% correct that this year we will see an issue with contracts.
I think a good general rule of thumb is to understand that contracts given to you are generally protecting the interests of the person giving it to you. They are not necessarily... So if I give Joe a contract, it's usually to protect me. It is not necessarily to protect Joe. However, if Joe has influence, if he has bargaining power, then he can negotiate the contract. It becomes predatory because a lot of the athletes, one, do not have negotiating power, and two, they don't know how to develop it. So that makes it somewhat predatory and can be a bit bullying. But I think that as more contracts are released and more general information is known, that issue is going to be resolved. The same with one of the other topics I wanted to bring up, which is drugs. So I think that this year we're going to see more athletes being tested and testing positive for illegal substances. Out here in Thailand, it is very easy to get traditional steroids, peptides, TRT, HGH, other drugs like that. I'm not personally like super informed about it, but it is very, very easy to get. Yeah, I know a handful of friends, including personal trainers that take TRT and other supplements for bodybuilding. I think we're going to see more athletes testing positive for that. And I think it's going to cause some media concern about it in terms of, hey, you can't fight, you're banned. But I do think that over time it's going to work itself out. The athletes are going to start to understand, well, if I take X, I'm not going to be able to fight. So do I want to take it or not? I think it's going to be a little bit of a hiccup period with people getting popped, but I think it will work itself out. Other thing that I think is going to be a development is the further division between the traditional and entertainment shows. What do you think about that?
I think you are correct. I mean, we've seen the slow decline in traditional Muay Thai. So when we talk about that, we talk about 5-round stadium-style Muay Thai with the gambling centered around the stadium and that dictating the style of the fight. Now, there has been a massive decline in the last year of these shows. We still have a few like Kiat Pet shows, Palang Mai and Muay Man Wan Suk, but still they're very few and far between. The big emphasis we've seen is on entertainment style Muay Thai. And when we talk about that, we're talking about fast-paced action with the emphasis being on aggression, forward punching style Muay Thai.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to separate and in some ways be good for the sport because the entertainment side is one where the money is and two, it's where the attention is. Last year, we talked about some of the fighters that would do very well, and looking over it, I think we hit the nail on the head with a handful of the athletes. Sexton Orkwan Muang had a really, really good year. I think that he's going to do okay in this next year and probably retire in 2024.
8-0, I believe, in the last year, and he's built himself a very, very fruitful career over his whole lifespan, and one championship has given him the opportunity to retire in a blaze of glory. I think I would say that probably his time is coming to an end. He's getting older. He's getting battered in some of these fights by big, strong, young, hungry guys. So yeah, I think perhaps we might even see a few old legends start to retire. Maybe Nongo or
Muay Thai. I could see Liam Harrison is basically on his last legs. We'll see what happens. Obviously, it's too bad, but we're also going to see a new crop of athletes coming up. Jonathan Haggerty had an amazing 2023. Nico Carrello had a very, very good year. I still think Ferrari is going to do good coming up into this next year, and Fabio Reyes will probably perform very well. A good athlete friend of yours, Xavier Gonzalez, should do very well.
Yep, I think the young Xavier Gonzalez did very well last year. He's one of the few foreigners who's ever fought on Channel 7. I did a bit of research before, and there's only ever been 8 foreigners who's ever fought on Channel 7 Stadium, and he had a phenomenal year. He will be fighting this month at One Championship, so he will be having a rematch, I believe, with one of his first fights. So he's one to look out for. I think another young guy, a friend of mine, Alfie Pierce, who did very well last year. He's one to watch out for on the entertainment circuit and the 5-round traditional Muay Thai circuit as well. He's able to adapt to both of those. Who else do you have in mind to watch out for?
I think that some of the stable over at RWS is going to continue to perform very well, and I think athletes like Ritoada, Danny Rodriguez, Yadwicha are going to continue to entertain and have successful years this year.
Tanamchai Sitsongpinong, I think, is really one that people need to keep their eyes peeled for. He won the RWS tournament last year. He's very young. I think he's only 21, 22, and he's very hungry. I've watched him train, and he trains like an absolute workhorse.
Yeah, so for the women, I think a lot of our predictions were pretty good, not 100% for 2023. I think we're going to see good things from Barbara Aguera and Alicia Rodriguez. Alicia did very well against Mila Sundell. Quan Cao Pormungpet did very well at RWS and the WBC games. I think we're going to see some other athletes like Marie Hines continue to have success. Who are some of the other... I think Sheer Cohen will do well this year.
Yeah, she did a phenomenal job on the Road to One series. Her last fight was an absolute war. It was an absolute bloodbath. If you haven't watched it, I really recommend that you watch that fight on YouTube. Sheer Cohen from Israel. Another one to keep your eyes on is Brioni Soden from Australia, who had a phenomenal debut on RWS. She's fought in a lot of the IFMA tournaments, so those amateur tournaments, has done really well. She won the WMC for women's tournament in Australia and won $10,000. I think she is an absolute workhorse, and if she comes back to Thailand and decides to have a career in Thailand, I think she will be a force to be reckoned with.
I would agree with you. I do think that one of her opponents in the final, Dory Duncan, again, if Dory comes over here for an extended stint, should do very well.
Yes.
The Australians continue to do well with Rebellion and other shows like that. And I think we're going to see a very steady pace in Australia, while some of the other countries are going to start creeping up. Were there any other women that you thought would stand out?
For me, Somrat to me was a standout in 2023. I think if there's another RWS tournament, she'll probably be in for a good chance of winning it another time. She's an absolute powerhouse, very beautiful Muay Thai style. Check her out, Somrat to me. Probably a lot of the Luk Sai Kong Din sisters, they performed very well on RWS in the last year, and they're crowd favourites at Rajadamnern Stadium.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we're going to see the continued steady growth of female Muay Thai, both for the Thai side of things and then the foreigners. Women are gaining steam in terms of online popularity. However, they do need to impact ratings still, and ratings on traditional TV, because the traditional TV shows are still looking at the ratings. So shows like One Lumpini, if the female bouts get more ratings, we'll start putting more female bouts on. But we'll see if the female athletes are able to do that in the future. Moving on from the fighters, we had a couple of outstanding gyms. I think a lot of our picks from 2023 are still strong for 2024. For me, Phuket Fight Club, Fairtex, PK Sanchai, all did very well in 2023. I think the best predictor for success is current success, and I think all those gyms showed success currently and will continue into 2024. What do you think, Joe?
I think I mentioned in our last video from last year, one to watch out for was Sordetchapan, and a lot of people messaged me about Sordetchapan, and it has been an absolute factory of champions this year. A few of their fighters, like Alif, have gotten contracts with one championship. They've got regular fighters like Jao Suayai, Xavier Gonzalez. Nico Carrillo has come over from Scotland and started training out of there. They've got JP Gallagher, who is Nico Carrillo's coach, who is now coaching a lot of the Thais out there. They have made themselves a very big name on RWS and won championship this year. So I think they're a very strong gym to look out for this year.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I think Sitong Pinong is having a bit of a resurgence, especially in this latter part of the year as Tristan, the son of the owner, has taken over some of the management. And we're going to see a good run from Sitong Pinong in 2024. So wrapping things up, I think there's a couple great outlets for people to follow news about the sport. I still think that most of the news is going to come to you via Instagram from outlets like CM Fight News, then personal branded pages like my page, Muay Thai Results, then Joe Comerford Muay Thai, then the promotions themselves. What do you think, Joe?
In the last year, we've seen a huge growth in media pages for the sport, which is fantastic. We've seen things like Antoine Pinto's project, Upper Media. We've seen Count Films, which is, I believe, run by a Brazilian guy. So there's more and more media outlets being involved. Nick Atkins has been doing really great work with covering one championship. So there's some of the pages that you can follow to get your news about Muay Thai. And of course, follow us. Where can you watch Muay Thai? Pretty much the same from last year. However, I would say that YouTube probably isn't the most accessible way to watch Muay Thai. Facebook and following the actual promotions is probably the easiest way because they tend to do live streaming on Facebook.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think that is the place to look, and then just following individual fighters on Instagram, and then they'll have links to where they're fighting. So wrapping things up, is there anything else that you have predictions about for 2024?
I think we are going to see a big growth in the sport internationally. I think we will have a lot more fans from the US. I'm hoping that promotions from Thailand are able to break into the North American market, and finally we will see the big money that MMA has been getting all these years for athletes here in our sport. And I really truly do believe that will, if it doesn't happen this year, it's definitely going to happen within the next 3.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you, Joe. I think that the money is going to really increase, especially for athletes, promotions, and talent that aren't just talented fighters, talented people, that they have the additional skills on top. So, being a good fighter plus having a good social media presence, being an on-camera talent that is also able to photograph plus write, being a promotion that doesn't just put on good fights, but has a good social media presence that takes care of fighters. These additional skills are going to compound to create success.
So you can follow us at
Matt Lucas Muay Thai
and Joe Comerford Muay Thai. Thank you very much.